They say no one goes to Blackmere Island anymore, not since the last time. Fishermen give it a wide berth. Sailors scrub its coordinates from their charts. If you ask the folks in the nearby town of Haverfield, they'll tell you it's cursed. They'll lean in close and whisper that every 50 years, the dead wash ashore. The last time it happened was 1975. The few who saw it and lived to tell the tale, well, they never spoke of it again. The island itself isn't much to look at, a small, desolate rock, barely bigger than a football field. But what lies beneath is another story entirely. A labyrinth of sea caves, stretching for miles, flooded and black as crude oil. Legend has it that centuries ago, the island served as a quarantine station during the plague. Hundreds of souls were buried there in mass graves, nameless, forgotten. But on Blackmere Island, the dead don't stay buried for long. Our story really begins with a young historian from London, Elliot Graves. Elliot wasn't the superstitious type. He didn't believe in ghost stories or campfire tales, but he had a passion, an obsession almost, for maritime folklore. One rainy afternoon, tucked away in a dusty library, he stumbled upon an old newspaper clipping about Blackmere's cycle of resurrection. At first, he dismissed it as a hoax, a local legend spun to scare tourists. But then he saw the pattern every 50 years, like clockwork. On the exact same date, October 23rd, the area around the island became a hotbed for strange disappearances. Missing person reports would skyrocket. Sailors vanished from their boats. Divers gone without a trace. And here is the part that sent a shiver down Elliot's spine. The names of the missing matched the names of those who had died in the previous 50-year cycle. It was impossible. It defied all logic. But curiosity's a powerful drug, one that often overpowers reason. So, in the autumn of 2025, for exactly 50 years to the day since the last recorded incident, Elliot chartered a small fishing boat. He packed his camera, his audio recorders, and a bag full of research notes, and he set a course for Blackmere Island. As he approached, a thick, heavy fog rolled in, swallowing the horizon. The sea, once choppy, turned unnervingly calm, like a sheet of dark glass. His GPS flickered and died. The needle of his compass spun in frantic, useless circles. And the very moment the hull of his boat scraped against the sandy shore, a profound silence fell. The wind stopped. The waves ceased their endless rhythm. It was a silence so complete, it was deafening. He stepped onto the island and immediately began recording. The footage, recovered later, is shaky and unsettling. It shows a landscape smothered in green moss and dotted with decaying, broken gravestones. As Elliot pans his camera across them, the inscriptions become chillingly clear. Each stone bears the same date of death, separated by exactly 50 years. October 23rd, 1825, 1875, 1925, 1975. He set up a small camp near the cliffs, the fog swirling around him like a shroud. He pulled out his research notes, and in a clear, steady voice, began reading the names of the dead aloud, hoping to provoke something. And that's when the voices began. At first, it was just a faint whisper, almost indistinguishable from the hiss of the tide, a rhythmic, sighing sound that seemed to emanate from the rocks themselves. But then, the whispers grew clearer. They started to form words. And then, a single word, spoken with chilling clarity, right behind him. His name, Elliot. He spun around, his flashlight beam cutting a trembling path through the mist. He scanned the rows of crooked gravestones. Nothing. Just the oppressive fog and the sudden, distinct sound of slow, wet footsteps squelching in the mud somewhere behind him. The next part of the recording is a chaotic mess of distortion. The audio fills with screeching static, and the video becomes a series of blinding white flashes. But in between the static, for a split second, a few frames are horrifyingly clear. Shapes. Vague, humanoid shapes moving within the fog, figures emerging from the dark, churning sea, their bodies draped in seaweed and kelp, their eyes pale, hollow voids. The final 60 seconds of the footage are the most terrifying. The camera's on the ground, pointing up at Elliot's face. He's backed against a rock, his breath coming in ragged, panicked gasps. He's whispering, his voice trembling with a mixture of terror and awe. "They're not here for revenge," he whispers into the lens. "They're coming for what's theirs. Every 50 years they rise. Not for revenge, but for remembrance." Then, a shadow falls over him, and the recording abruptly cuts to black. Silence. 2 days later, Elliot's camera was found on the shore, half buried in the wet sand. His boat was gone. There was no trace of Elliot himself. No footprints leading away from the camera. Nothing. Only a single, new addition to the island's grim collection. A freshly carved gravestone, standing stark and white beside the others. On it, 2 things were engraved. His name, Elliot Gravis, and a date, October 23rd, 2025. The locals will tell you that the island is quiet again now. The fog has lifted, and the sea has returned to its normal, rhythmic pulse. But sometimes, when the tide is low and the moon is hidden behind the clouds, fishermen swear they can hear voices carrying on the wind from Blackmere. Whispers calling from the fog, pleading for the living to come back and remember, to finish what was started. Because the cycle isn't broken. And in 50 years, someone else will answer the call. Thank you so much for joining me on this dive into the darkness. If you enjoy stories that will keep you up at night, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more mysteries. Stay safe out there, and see you in the next one.